to prepare our trays, and we usually prepare some of these trays before we start deflasking the babies out. And the way we do that is we go through and we get our media. We use cypress mulch to plant our babies in, with a little bit of sponge rock in here. We will go through and pick out anything that is too large. As you can see, we have some larger chunks here we've already picked out of the media. The media has been dampened, but it's not sopping wet, it's just a little bit damp. And then we're going to place it into the tray. And we just use handfuls of it, and we spread it around in the tray. And once it's about half full, we're going to start compressing it down into the tray. If you find any more larger pieces, you're going to remove those as well. And that's just so we get a more even coverage for our plants to grow in, and it's much easier for us to plant in. Don't throw those larger pieces away though, because they can be used for other potting projects. We do save them. There are other things that don't care to have all this little media. They would rather have larger things, and we do use that. Once you've got it tamped down the first time, you're going to continue to add media in here and just tamp it down. You don't have to compact it with full force, you're just wanting to press it in. Make sure you have a good even coverage. Make sure that it feels that it's the same. We try to be consistent, and each person does it a little different, but we do want the trays to feel the same. This tray is actually very light when you pick it up. It doesn't weigh very much, but the media is even all the way across the top and ready to be planted in. Once we've done this, we will water it in just a little bit and let it drain before we use it. We preset all of our trays, usually first thing in the morning before we start planting. Alright, today we are going to be deflasking here at Carter & Holmes. We have plants that have come out of the lab and are ready to go into trays, and we have to pull them out of these bottles. We will be removing them using, basically what we have here is a modified stake. We've just bent the end. It's got a little L arm. And by doing that, we're going to reach down into the bottle. And if you can see, we're going to hook right up underneath the plant, and we're going to gently tease it out and just drop it into the pan. And we'll just go all the way around the bottle and do that for each of the individual plants that we have. Take your time when you're doing this. You don't want to break the new growths off, so you do want to gently tease them back and forth and bounce them up out of the media. It makes it easier, and you have less media that ends up in your pan. The pan we have here that they're going into is clean water with a little bit of Fizan, and that's just to help break the media down off of them and to clean them of any possible bacteria that they may have from the lab. Usually those bottles are already gone before they come out here. We're going to shake the plants around and clean their leaves off, get the media off. I'm going to pull off any dead roots if I can by hand, and once I've done that, then I'm going to trim the roots up some so we can plant them. I'm not going to trim them too much, but I am going to trim them just a little bit. Let's see, so you get a good see. There we go. So that you have roughly about 2 inches left of your roots system, and then we're going to set them down in the tray and sort them out. Again, just pulling off the debris, and you can see where they were trimmed in the lab. There's a lot of really short roots here, and I will clean out that center some and take out some of those roots that are just not producing, just like you would when you're potting into a pot. You're going to take the centers out and clean them up as well, so that your plant will establish new roots for you. Most of these roots on this plant are not too long, so I just need to trim these last couple down here. Clean it up, and that plant's ready to go into a tray. Alright, now that we have all of our plants trimmed up and out of the flasks, and we have them sorted, I have larger here, I have some medium size, and then I have smaller ones. We're ready to start planting them in the tray. The tray has been packed with the cypress media that we use here, and then we pack it in, and then we water it through so that it's nice and wet, and then it sits and dries out some. The first thing I'm going to do is I usually take the tool that I use for deflasking, and I set it in find the middle of the tray, and I just eyeball this. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant in rows of 8 across, and then 8 down on both sides of where this tool is, and it's going to give me 16 rows of 8, which if you multiply that, it's going to give you 128 plants at the end of it. The first plants that we start with are the larger plants. They're going to be in the center of our tray, and then they're going to progressively get smaller as we go to the outsides, and that's to allow the smaller plants a chance to grow and catch up with the larger plants before, so that the larger plants don't grow over top of the smaller ones. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is pick up the plant that you want to work with. And like I said, it's one of our larger size plants. And then we're going to dig a little hole. We use bamboo sticks here to do this. They just seem to be the best tool to work with. They've had other things. This just works the best. And you're going to dig out a hole deep enough for the little roots you have in here. And you're just going to gently hold it down in the hole. And then we're going to cover it back up. Keep it held upright, and I use the bamboo stake to kind of tighten in around it, but I'm not going to press too hard so I don't injure the crown or any of the roots. I have it up right there, and then I'm going to move on to the next one and continue across the roll. As you do this, your first one will probably move on you, and it is unfortunately, something that happens as you go. So you're just going to retighten as you put in your next plant. Pull your first one up again, tighten it again, and just keep on working across. Once you get a couple of rows set in, your tray doesn't do that as bad. Clean that up. And you won't have to work so hard at it. There is a front and back to the plants. And we're going to, I'll show you that in just a second. Let me get this guy set. So, the front of the plant is where you can see the nice, clean, shinier side of the front of the leaf. And the underside is the side that's not quite as shiny. And also you can see a more dominant ridge that sticks out. And I face that towards the center of the tray so that the plants will continue to grow this way across the tray and not climb up on top of each other where there's no room in the back as we go. If you face all your plants the same way, you'll have more uniform growth. In our house, in our greenhouses, it also helps because of the direction that the sun comes across our houses, and that allows the plants to get maximum resource from the sun that they need to photosynthesize with. Alright, so now we have our tray completely planted in. Our larger plants are in the center and then our smaller ones are towards the outside. We need to water the plants in so that the media will settle really well with the plants. We use a fan spray head here, and we don't turn it all the way up. We want to turn it on low. And we're just going to spray the entire tray and let it get a good drainage going. For us, we also set it up on a prop, something to position it up at an angle so that we get really good drainage out of the bottom of the tray and nothing sits in there to continue to collect water. Alright, once this has finished draining all the way out, we will move it, but for right now, to help keep the moisture up, we're actually going to use a dome for over the plants. And you just gently push the plants. Some of them will be hanging out the side, so you're just going to gently coax them in underneath the hood. Watch for your label because it will catch as well. And once it's there, then we'll just take it and move it to its home. Alright, our tray has completely drained out, so we've moved it to where it's going to live on the bench for the next few months. It's still underneath its dome, In the next few days, what we'll do is we'll actually use Cap-10 fungicide on the plants, and that's just to keep any fungus or bacteria growing on them. You can see the babies here. Last week we're sprayed with that. Actually, these are a couple weeks old. And once they have sat in here and they're still getting moisture, they're still getting acclimated to living outside of a flask, we'll slowly start to remove these covers and start the misting process and keep these babies misted until they establish roots, and then we'll start watering them in, and then in the next few months we'll probably have to move them again to a new home.